Did you see the story about the 2.5 million Stanley water cups being recalled?
Yes.
All of those basics that purchase $60 freaking thermoses all have to now like meet their maker and exchange their bad purchases.
But I mean, really, it's only if yours has the issue, right? Isn't it like something, a seal is not sticking?
Yeah, they were pumping it. Though all those basics wanted to get them so fast to be in style and in the trend that they had to pump them out, and they were like, boss, they ain't got no seal. Ship them anyway. These basic bitches need their thermoses.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
And then you get it, and who cares if it don't seal? Like, it's not about the function. Yeah. It's about the status.
And I don't get... So they're saying you can get burned, which I'm assuming a chemical burn if you put your mouth on it. But most of these have a straw. I don't fully understand the recall. Do you?
You know what? I read only one paragraph
You're like,
deep into
no, all I
it.
care is that they're getting...
The way that I interpret it was that the seal on the top of the thermos was defunct. And so if you took a drink of it, the seal would spill hot coffee all over your beautiful face and you'd be scalded and turn into the Elephant Man. Like, that's what I...
No, I think it's...
But I think that's perfect.
I think the material is burning people.
If people get disfigured from the status symbol, dude, that would be an irony like it was nobody's business.
You are wishing
Look how cool I am as I melt my face into oblivion. I mean, that would be... They write whole movies about shit like that.
Oh my God. You're wishing harm on people.
No. I am observing the fact that is a potential. The irony of the disfigured basic bitch as she takes her pink Stanley cup, dumps scalding hot coffee, and the temperature of the coffee melts her skin, and the chemical burns takes those puffy lips, pops them, and pus
because
and
they're
silicone.
Probably already injected.
Pus and silicone spray in all directions. It's a thing of beauty, and I think it's perfect. It's story worthy.
I can't even talk. I almost melted my ear this weekend. I jacked up my ear.
Let me guess. Curling iron.
Flat iron.
Flat iron.
Close. Flat iron. This puppy was so bad, it instantly turned white, kind of like a blister, except it wasn't bubbled out. It was like saggy, and it didn't hurt. That's how I knew it was bad. Mm-hmm. You know, like when you have injured yourself so badly that it takes a minute to feel the pain, I'm like, oh, so bad. This is so bad. Oh, it's so bad. And I went and I showed my husband my ear, and he's like, oh, damn. I was like, it doesn't even hurt yet. That's how bad it is. And then it started to hurt.
Oh, it's weird. Like the big punctures and the big injuries, they don't hurt at all. And you're like, this thing should be killing me. You know, a little tiny burn, it hurts all to shit. But you get like something through your arm and...
Oh, yeah. I knew somebody, they, not badly, but they briefly like they were working with a chainsaw, freaking chainsaw, and bumped their arm with it. And he said he remembers a noticeable second before any blood came out. He says all around the wound, it just sort of turned white, and he remembers not feeling much pain, and he went, oh my God. And then and then he's like, okay, hospital. But he said he can remember that moment of just nothing was happening for a second because it was so deep. I can't even... I'm scared to death.
I was in the middle of the woods, okay? Like in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking hours in every direction from any kind of medical facility.
Oh, God.
And I sliced my arm, all right? And it was bleeding big time.
Sliced it with what?
Well, I was wrenching on a pipe. So I was working on a pipeline in the middle of nowhere. And so I wrenched, I slipped, and it got sliced across my arm. And when it started like bleeding off of my arm, like I felt absolute nothing. And I was like, shit, like I'm not going to last an hour to get back to somewhere. So there was a gas well that was about, I don't know, a half mile in that direction. So I went to the gas well and opened it up. And they have this little heater that's in there. I took my arm and I pushed it against the heater to cauterize it. Yeah, I have that. That's all that's left of it right there.
That's like what people have to do in movies.
Yeah, and the burn, nor the slice, I felt zero things. And I don't know if it was because it was 2 degrees below zero, or that it was just a level of pain that my brain kicked in and
Yeah, your body was protecting you.
Yeah. But I tell that story and
crap.
hopefully someone gives me the Joe, you're a badass medal. But really, I didn't feel anything. It was literally, I was like, I'm just going to bleed out here and I don't know what to do. I don't have a sewing kit. Like, how the hell do I do it? I walked up to, and I worked the gas wells when I was in high school. So I knew that there was some kind of heating element in there. And cauterized
And you don't even have a gnarly scar or anything.
No, just a little dot. That's all that's left of that entire.
That's
it
such
was like this big.
bullshit. I have the gnarliest scars from the dumbest, most meaningless little thing. But you I cauterized my arm to save my life in the woods.
It is
and
about
there's
a
barely a mark.
half-inch circle when the thing was like this. Like, it was about 2 inches up my arm.
That's not even discolored very much. I have bruises that look worse.
Right.
You see that? You know what that is?
What's that?
My dog
Your dog.
playing around. And you saved
Cauterized.
your life by cauterizing your arm.
Now, granted, this was 22 years ago, so the skin has replenished itself and built over itself 40 times at this point.
Oh my God.
But it was, I cite that because, number one, you think in a moment where you pierce your thing and you think you're going to die that you're going to panic, and you really don't. You hit this level of sanity. It is single track, tunnel vision. I have a thing to do. You think of nothing, everything else dies. And you go into that mode, and when you go into survival mode, you do whatever it takes to get it done, and you don't feel pain, you don't feel happiness, you don't feel sadness. It's just a
survival.
Absolutely.
I wonder if I would have thought to cauterize it. When you say that, I instantly go, oh, yes, of course, good idea. But at the time, I wonder if I would have just been I don't know what to do.
I'm going to die, and just lay down.
Put pressure on it, and I don't know. Because like you said, if you don't have anything and you're far, wow.
Yeah. Another instance, I was driving 4-wheelers also in the middle of nowhere, and I went over some ice, and the 4-wheeler went into the water. And so I'm submerged at 20 degrees below zero in water, and I'm like, shit, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And that's another one where I went in survival mode and figured out what I was going to do to not die. And it's such a different state of mind. And, I think everybody on a regular basis should visit that survival mode.
Oh, being in a life or death situation?
Honestly, if I could open a business that all I did was convince you that you're going to die and let you go through 30 or 45 minutes of just thinking you're going to die, you will get to know yourself on another level. Would you do it? Would you sign up for
No.
the death simulation?
I can't even imagine. I wonder what the difference would be. I mean, I have been in situations where my anxiety is so heightened. I get nervous in the car. I've been in a couple accidents. None were so awful that I should have this level of anxiety, but just enough that I'm a very nervous car rider. And I have been on road trips where I am just... my whole body is tight. My heart is racing. I am please, God, just get us through this. Praying. I am just a nervous wreck. But then I'm in that state for an hour or more. So I don't know if that would be I don't believe I'm going to die.
Biologically, I don't think women are wired that way. I think biologically, you're not a warrior, right?
Not at all.
And so under a nice... boring, sophisticated civilization, you don't ever have to lean on, that innate ability.
Yeah.
So do you think that if we ever got to crisis chaos, we brought women out of a certain place and put them in different places because we're so solid and consistent and whatever, what if society swung in the other direction and you had chaos everywhere and it was survival of the fittest and you had to, get your arm lopped off and still survive anyhow? And then a majority of the women that are put in positions of survival would buckle in 25 seconds because, again, biologically, they're not built that way.
Well, Which is interesting because, I mean, you always hear that women, you know, we supposedly have this like higher pain threshold and these chemicals in our body that release when there's danger and like all these different things. I mean, I was trying to think when you were telling me your story is like, God, what's the worst injury or pain I have ever been in? What's the worst thing I've ever sustained? And it's probably childbirth. I wanted the epidural. I had the epidural with my first kid, but my second kid came so fast I couldn't get one. And in no way, shape, or form would I have ever in my life wanted to do natural childbirth. I wasn't planning for it. Hell no. Give me all the drugs I can get. But I couldn't. I had to do it. And I remember in that moment that the medical staff being like, this is on, like, we're doing this. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I can't do, no. Like, I can't. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. And they're like, it is happening. You have no choice. I'm like, this is happening. But I don't even think that was me. Like, I feel like in childbirth, like, it's happening. Whether you're participating or not, that kid's coming out. And so I don't recall having this sense or this feeling of, I have to do this. I have to survive. I have to, you know, I was listening to the instructions. I was doing what they were saying. I was trying to just get this over with, but it was very much my body doing a lot of
Well, you would think your body programming would give you the chemicals and the wiring that would give you enough to handle a circumstance like that, which makes total sense because, I mean, here's the thing. Like, this is obviously things you don't like to hear because this is, you know, unpopular opinions.
Yeah.
But stereotypes have a truth that is built in them. And how far along are you allowed to usher a stereotype until you get to an innate truth, right? Mm-hmm. So women have a certain segment that they were absolutely built for, and you can kind of step out from that. But when it comes down to it, like you get into you know, like a suck roll, right? You're facing a zombie. Do you want a mom whose chemicals and neurological processes are geared for nurturing and child rearing? Or do you want a set of neurological processes that are meant to kill and defend and whatever? Which one do you want? Which one are you taking to battle with?
Probably want the latter.
You want the warrior, right?
Yeah.
Right? And so long that we let the playing field be nice and boring, then anybody can participate. But when the shit goes down, shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get back to those stereotypes that we avoid, but they're true.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I was terrified one time. My daughter fell and gashed her face open. And that's probably one of the worst wounds I've ever seen. And I pride myself in how calm I stayed at the time. When I got to her, was freaking out before I got to her, was freaking out after. But when I was with her, and like you said, I think it was just the nurturing. I didn't want to scare her.
Exactly.
I needed to calm her down. I needed her to know it was okay. So I had to be like, even though I'm like dying inside, I was like, look at my face. I'm not worried. You're fine. We're going to be okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go get my pajamas or my clothes on because we're in our pajamas and we got to go to the hospital. I'll be right back. We're good. Okay? Okay. And then I'm like, oh my God. And I went like crying and freaked out.
Let's just say shit hits the fan and it is complete chaos outside these windows. Would you take a 5'5" little Hungarian looking dude, right, that weighs 145 pounds with a sword? Or would you take a 6-foot woman with that same sword? Who are you taking to battle with you? Boy, tiny Smurf, or girl,
well,
Amazonian
tiny but
woman?
mighty.
What would you take? And tell me, I want to know the why more than who you would take. Because I know you would take the Smurf. I know you would take the Smurf.
It depends
Why?
on the person.
Why?
I know some pretty badass women.
It does not. Like, you're not allowed to pick the absolute. You're gonna
Listen.
You got to take the law of averages.
Listen, is it a hugely buff, fit, athletic 6-foot woman?
Doesn't matter.
And a non-athletic guy?
Doesn't
or
matter.
the
On
guy...
a piece of paper, you got to pick who is going to get your 6. You got to pick, and you got to trust your instincts.
Okay, if somebody's like, life or death, you need someone to protect you, a man or a woman, I would say man.
Okay.
Unless I had more information.
Okay, but all I'm going to tell you, I gave you as much information as you have to choose from. The woman is 6 foot. The man is 5'5". Does it change anything? They're both carrying a sword. They both got your 6. Which are you picking?
Probably. I know some pretty strong short guys.
You're picking the guy?
Probably.
Right,
unless I have more information.
Super interested in the. Let's dig into your brain and find out what about that lends itself to what a guy is capable of doing and what a girl is capable of doing.
Listen, because in my brain, that description, I can instantly picture a handful of guys who are 5'5" and very badass and very ready to fight and very capable. And I also know a handful of girls that are 6 foot and not at all.
We are taking, you don't know which of those you're going to get. You have to just pick a guy in his wiring and a girl in her wiring. And you have to decide based on the tendencies of both. And you're going to pick a guy because guys have a tendency to be protectors and fierce and cauterize their freaking arm because they feel like it. So you're going to have trust in the fact that that guy is going to go to the nth power to protect you. Where a girl, you might have, she might be a badass, but she might not be.
Yeah.
And if you're going to just trust the laurels of girl nature, it might not be as good as guy nature.
Because there are some situations where I'd be like, I would take that girl over that guy any day of the week.
If you could hand pick. And that's fine. That's okay. But I'm saying on just generalities, not picking the exception. Just total. Because, honestly, like stereotypes exist for a reason. And I think we dance around it because it's not politically correct to point out what stereotypes. So if you're like, white guys can't jump, right? And there are white guys that can totally jump. But on the aggregate, when compared by black guys or any other race, white guys don't have ups that black guys do, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, if I wanted to say, well, I hate that stereotype, and I'm going to go in my backyard and practice jumping every day, and I'm going to defy the popular and the math on it, for sure. I can take the white guys can't jump thing. But stereotypes exist for a reason because when we trust our instincts, we know the math of real things. And it's only socially we take good data and we push it down for the sake of, not being mean to certain people. Like and that's right. But, I take exception to that because short guys get shit on, right? All across the board. And nobody makes apologies. But there's other stereotypes about every other group that somehow get a freaking pass. And I'm kind of sick of it a little bit.
Well, and I think the short guy thing, too, comes from little man syndrome, which not all short guys have. But when you meet a short guy that does, that's the dude you want to shit on. Because...
But why do all short guys have to pay the consequence for the little man syndrome guy?
Do you think they do?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you get teased a lot?
No. I wouldn't care because it doesn't enter into my realm. Like it doesn't carry a lot of weight. But I just watch sometimes like the preferences, like how people, especially in business or in politics, that someone who's taller will be gifted some respect that a short person wouldn't. And there's definitely some side eye and some shade put on someone if they don't carry a certain height. And I mean, that's not fair. I'm dealing with whatever I've gotten, and I'm sort of like at a disadvantage because of what gravity did to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, my husband is 5'5", and I'm 5'9". So imagine the jokes there.
For sure.
And, I mean, he's just always embraced it. He'll tease himself. He's very secure. We joke about...
But the stereotype is how we feel about things on the inside. What we say publicly is all bullshit. Right? Mm-hmm. If we think that there's a, small statured person and they're not going to hold up to the threat that's coming across the gate. And then so we're going to trust the 6-foot guy to be able to defend our honor. That's great if we were consistent across the board where we held in high regard for people who were protectors and defenders. But then everywhere else, we minimize the protector-defender thing. And we're like, well, what's the purpose of defaming the 5'5" guy if you're going to pretend that weak women who can't defend, whatever, are in high esteem? Like, I don't understand the lack of consistency socially. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a 5-foot guy that's like strong and nimble and powerful and athletic, and then you can have a 6-foot guy that's a twig and falls over his feet and doesn't know what to do. And
right, but the stereotypes across all of time will reward one thing, and it will, like I said, it will give a huge disadvantage to the other thing. But then all of society will be in denial that those things existed. So if it was cool, like, okay, well, short people have to be really smart and tall people have to be really strong, and then we both fill our same role, our own role, because we're going to just follow every stereotype and play into those roles. That would actually make sense to me.
Do you think, though, it's sort of all just biologically in us, I think. I always hear, like, men will be attracted to women with birthing hips, or you even hear a lot of men like women with, like, longer hair as opposed to shorter hair. And it all has to do with biology and reproducing, and the way they look has to do, do they look healthy because then they can have offspring and all this stuff. So,
but if we're wired that way, why deny it? That is the stereotype of acknowledgement of some kind of truth. If that is the purpose of human beings, is to create a tent and defend that tent and have offspring and perpetuate the species, or propagate the species, then so be it. Like, what's the downside?
But then it doesn't even really make sense, because if you were talking just stereotypically, you would say things like, oh, women would like men with, like, a full, thick head of nice hair, and bald guys get the shaft. But technically, don't men go bald when they have more testosterone, which makes them more manly than a guy without? Am I wrong here? I feel like I heard that somewhere.
Well, and that's a thing. Like, biologically, if, like, let's just say a 20-year-old girl is dating a 60-year-old overweight person that's bald, right?
Yeah.
And then you make the joke that, he's got to have a great personality, right? Well, no, women are attracted to the stability and financial success of a person, and willing to overlook any physical attributes to be able to get the things they really want, which is we get back to the family thing. If you're going to raise a family and you're going to want security, you're going to want security in those departments where maybe if you don't have it, you trade off the, looks for something that is like stability.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I started dating my husband, it was the first time I had ever gone out with a short guy, and some girls had something to say about that. And I said, look, I could date a really nice, great guy who's fun and smart and a good time, but short, or I could date a total asshole because he's tall.
Right.
Why would I do that? I'm like, that's literally the only downside is the height. That's it. That would be really stupid of me to be like, oh, yeah.
But you feel that pressure. Like, society puts a certain pressure on you that you should have made a different choice if society were the judge of it.
Oh, I had a woman say to me flat out, she's like, I don't think I could do it. I can't date a guy shorter than me.
Exactly.
And I was like, well, keep dating assholes if that's your one criteria, and I was uncomfortable for a while. I would, like, slouch a lot and sort of just, like, find my flattest shoes and stand a certain way, and it made me feel like I was this ogre or something. And then I was like, this is so dumb. Where's the law that says the girl has to be shorter than the guy? There's no law. Nobody cares. Why? That's the one thing, and I'm going to let it bother me?
But the societal pressure for you to do and be a certain thing in spite of that, right? There's got to be, like I said, we're so afraid to talk about those truths because society really penalizes for those truths to come out. So if women, if a lady raises a family and is a homemaker, right? Mm-hmm. That's a admirable position to take. You're embracing all of your biologies, and if that's what you want to do, you're probably going to be super good at it because you're wired that way.
Yeah.
And
because I mean, I'm guilty. Before I ever had kids, I would always make these comments, like there would be all these like mommy and me groups and coffee meetups that I would get invited to. And I would never say this to the women, but like to myself or my husband, I'd be like, sorry, I work. Like I have a job. I do things outside the home. Like, why do they keep meeting during the weekday? And don't these people do anything? And oh my God, must be nice to just sit home and do whatever you want all day. And then I had 2 kids back to back and I had to stay home. And I was humbled. I was so humbled because that is the hardest thing ever. Like oh my God, I would rather work outside the home any day of the week than be a stay-at-home mom again. Hardest thing I've ever done.
50% of the population is going to say stay-at-home moms, like, why don't you get out in the workforce and show that you're powerful too? And 50% of the people are going to say, how dare you work? You're supposed to be a nurturer and take care of your kids.
Oh, yeah, so you can't win. Yep.
But that's everywhere.
You're going to let someone else raise your kids?
Exactly.
If you use daycare. Oh, okay, well, then I'll raise my kids. Oh, so your husband's the only one with money? I'm like, oh, okay, well, this sucks. Yeah. Welcome to womanhood.
Listen, guys have a different version of that.
What's the man version?
These pressures to become the thing that society wants you to become and the thing that it doesn't want you to become. It's a can't win thing, right? And I don't know, like from a standpoint of evolutionary biology, like what is the purpose for a thing? Like it's understandable that women are nurturers and guys are the warriors. Like that made sense in a certain time. But when things get safe and easy and consistent, then we stray from that and we're like, well, I don't have to do this thing now. Let me go find out if I can do this other thing and change the environments based on, my exploration rather than how I was built. Right? So I don't have to be a warrior anymore. I've not picked up a sword at all. I've not defended the honor of anybody. I've not murdered or killed anyone in years, at least years.
Years, right? Yeah.
So part of my primal instinct is being like, so what defines the success of a man if it's not rearing kids and taking care of family and it's not, killing the enemy and defending the village? Where's success in a man's world? It's got to be financial success, or it's got to be societal success. And as a 5'5" Hungarian bald guy, there are people ahead of the race on those things, ahead of me.
I mean, I think if you choose to look at it that way,
it is. Like that's not a perspective. I'm comparing the subsets of people in the race, and I know where I'm at in this race. And if I decided that I was going to try to participate in those other races, it wouldn't go well. It's not observation.
In your mind, what is the race? The race to achieve what?
It would be overall success. If you had a line that said what success was.
What's success?
Yes, exactly.
What is it?
So all 3 of those groups is going to say success. Okay, getting what you want, financial success, health, mate of your choice, like all those races that are going on at one time.
And you don't think you've achieved success?
In a lot of different departments, but I don't think I've ever tried to join any race. I kind of just played my own game. The people who try to put themselves in one of those groups and try to be the best at one of those groups are the people that end up losing.
People that try to be the best at one.
Yeah, because you can't be the best at any one of those groups. It's a race amongst all people. And so if you want to be, let's just say, professional success, like what defines whether or not you've reached the pinnacle of financial success, right? Mm-hmm. It's an infinite pursuit. And so if you want to have all the money in the world, I mean, there's people that are still running along that path and trying to outdo the people that are in that race. And there's always going to be people ahead of you. There's always going to be people behind you.
Yeah.
Whether or not, the family life. And that's another thing about families. Like, I know pretty much every family I know complains about their family. Isn't that strange? Like, there are so many wives that hate their husbands and husbands that hate their wives and parents who hate their kids and kids who hate their parents.
Every family
way more than I'm comfortable with. Way more than I'm comfortable with.
Well, I think to an extent the complaining is going to happen because your family is the people you are around every single day, all day. There is going to be tension. There are going to be issues. Going to be good days, going to be bad days.
But if that's the race you're running, your job is to be in first place all the time. And I think when people stop trying for their immediate family, where they want to have the best kids and the best wife and the best husband, that's when they have this like, why did I pick this one? It was so much better over there. Let me go get you another one.
Well, and I think it's all your mindset of what you're looking for. If in life, like 100%. You're just keeping up with the Joneses all the time, you're going to be miserable.
Absolutely. And that's most people.
Yeah.
The stereotype is that people trying to outpursue in whatever, which one of those, people who say, F family, I'm going after career, and trying to outperform everybody else in that band, you're going to lose. People who just say family, right? That's really the only winner there. Family is the only winner that if you're like, F everything else, if I like my wife and I like my kid and I like my pets and I'm happy with what I have, like that's the real only one that I can feel that you can have some kind of like feedback from.
Yeah. See, I agree. I have seen couples and families that make very good money. They live very comfortably. They have nice things. They don't want for anything, but they just don't seem happy. There's always tension. There's always something there. They don't ever seem in love enough that, okay, it made sense they got married, but they don't seem in love, if that makes sense. And then I've seen people that, paycheck to paycheck, we're surviving, but they laugh, they're close. They're going to be together forever. And I've always said, like, to me, success is if you have what you want, you're happy, you're living. I know somebody who said one time they want to make $1 million. And they said, to me, I am successful when I can say I have made $1 million. I'm like, okay, if I have enough to survive and be happy, that is success. If I don't wake up in the morning and hate my life, that is success. Because I've seen these same people, they make very good money, but they have to take so many vacations a year, so many days off. They have all these vices when they come home from work, whether it's alcohol or going to the gym to zone out, whatever. They have to have all these vices because they've got to relieve stress because their daily life is too much. And I'm like, I'd rather have bare minimum what I need and be happy every day than have all these things that don't bring any happiness.
Speaking of alcohol, like...
Speaking of which, is it that kind of day?
No, it's actually a really good day. Like
That's
this is
good.
just I'm trying to kill the cold viruses that you brought into the studio.
Oh, I know. They've been all around me, by the way, so steer clear. Steer clear.
So I guess the long and short is there's information in these stereotypes. And I think they call it like wokeism and going woke and buying into like what's politically correct and not. And people like you and I, like, we can talk about anything. We can throw anything that would be taboo on the table and really hash it out because we really don't care about how people feel about how we feel about it. These are just truthful things.
The show is even called Opinion.
Yes.
Unpopular Opinions.
Yeah. And the purpose is to get yourself to think about, kind of things that put some friction in your brain. And the more like you have an ideology that makes it so like I have something so sacred in my brain that nobody else can contest it and throw something out there and I won't question it. That's where you have that unhealthy vein. If I said, hey, you're eating healthy, right? I'm going to come in and contest it. Now, if you can defend why you do it and not feel like you've been pushed in a unnatural direction, right? So if I was like, you're eating proteins and vegetables and lots of vitamins, you're an idiot, right? You could very easily say, I did that on purpose, and that's what I like, and I feel really good when I'm doing it. You don't feel like me questioning your choices when you're in a direction that you're trying to do intelligent things. Like if I were to bring something to light and say, hey, in order for you to metabolize vitamin D, you have to have K2 in your body, right? You wouldn't take that as me assaulting one of your beliefs. You'd be like, oh, new information.
Good to know.
Yeah. But if I were to say
K2.
something like women are hardwired to be nurturers and caretakers, and they really shouldn't be on the front lines of a military on the grunts that go in first, would you take exception to that? Because I'm using information to say they're not your best bet. If there's 100 people in a crowd, and do I want the nurturers to go kill people without question, or do I want the warriors to go kill people without question?
Yeah.
What could you add to that? Don't say that because that's not a fair thing, or
yeah, I mean, you even hear that like when it comes to women in politics, and people want to say, oh, you can't have a woman in power because they're emotional. And I think a gut reaction is to be like, that's not true. There can be women in power, and that's not a thing. But then a small part of me goes, they're not wrong. Like women can be emotional. Will that cloud their judgment? Maybe not. I'm not saying that, no woman can be in power because of emotions. But I think about it and I go, it's not wrong. Like women are known to be emotional. Women do have hormones and things that make them emotional. And it almost like makes you second guess. But if you even say that, it's insulting. Oh my God, how could you even think that? And it's like, but really, let's think about that. Because it is a thing, and it is true. And so,
you know what that stops?
What?
That stops the actual problem solving in that equation. So if you're not willing to agree that something happens in a woman to make hormones happen when against their control or out of their control, whether or not it be when, once a month kind of things or at the end of their fertility cycles, right? Mm-hmm. So what, okay, just hypothetically, let's just say you have a person that's super smart and really in politics, very top tier, right? Mm-hmm. And then she's about to hit that end of life cycle. And she's like, hey, I want to be really good at the politics thing. So she goes to a hormone therapist and they fill in the gaps between what her body's naturally going to be doing and what those emotional roller coasters that's going to happen. And he fills in that. It's an acknowledgement of the truthful thing that's going to happen. So A is, that doesn't really exist, versus, oh, it's going to exist. And there are sciences that will help this person use their intelligence and wield it appropriately. Which way would an intelligent society go?
You would think the intelligent society would want to acknowledge it.
If they could agree that women and men are different in different ways.
And I've always been told, like, when I was younger, people would always joke around, and you always hear, like, jokes about women and their period and stuff, and they'd be like, oh, sorry, no offense. I would always say, none taken, because I'm a woman, and I know I've lost my damn mind before. Based solely on hormones.
So why do we pussyfoot around that? When it is an actual thing that women are different and their bodies are perfectly crafted for a thing, and that thing that it's perfectly crafted for works against the job of the other gender. Like, why are we I mean, I don't care if you go out into that other gender, so that if my job was to defend the village, but I might have a crying streak. My job is to fucking defend the village, right?
Yeah.
So the incoming giants are coming. And I'm like, I'm feeling kind of soft today. How much are you going to feel for my softness that day? Or it's going to be like, suck it up, do whatever you got to do to get your sword and defend the fucking village, because that is your job.
Yep. My husband was... when he was active duty in the military, he was in this unit that was very elite, and they were gone all the time. And every time they deployed or came back, from a deployment, the wives would have our own briefing. We had to go and do like a deployment brief and a redeployment brief. And they would talk to us when they were coming back about things to expect. Here's what's been going on. Just give them some time, blah, blah, blah. And they even said, what makes a good soldier makes a terrible husband.
Yep.
And they said, and you need to keep in mind that for the last several months, he has been in this mode of everything you have to be to get the job done and survive. And that is the opposite of what you want in your home with your kids.
But that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant because it's not deflecting the truths, right? Your husband was well crafted to be a good soldier, and then you had to make some concessions that allow a good soldier to also be a good husband. But knowing all the data, as long as they spelled it out for what they did to break him, right?
Yeah.
And then how you can accept him made a good relationship.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they would tell you, they'd be like, first couple days, probably not a great time to bring up anything that's been going on. That is difficult. Probably not a good time to bring up any issues with the kids or whatever. Like, just let them reacclimate into society because they've been a machine.
You would be really good at teaching this, but you would not be popular in the aspect of having to teach it. Because we're in such denial about the differences of things. Like engineers, we don't give two shits about why something is a certain way. Our job is to be able to fix it with whatever we're being given, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't like question and get all hung up on why the bridge is in the state that it's in. We're going to fix the bridge and give me the utilities that allow me to fix the bridge, and I'm going to fix it.
Yeah.
But all the rest of society wants to spend 90% on the questioning of what they're being given and why they're being given and how it's unfair and how it's unjust. They never get to the problem-solving part of it. So I'm a military wife, and my husband's going to be delivered back to me in a different state of the job that he was serving. And here's the state that it was in. You're being given all the materials to allow him to assimilate back into a regular life, right? Mm-hmm. And it was all truth. Yeah. They weren't going to bullshit you. Were like, he's going to come back and he's going to be in a bubble and he's going to be cheerful and he's going to give you flowers and he's going to be awesome, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because then you're like, hey, mine's broken.
Yeah, right.
You broke him. Can you bring it back?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the most honest and truthful thing that they could have done for you. And I wish the rest of society would just be honest about the details. And because honestly, I think, this is the one time where I'm not going to go down cynical boulevard. And I think people are 100% consistent, right? They might be jaded and they might be delusional and they might have weird ideological views of how things should be, like almost the utopia that exists that doesn't really exist in the real world. And, I think that deep down, like when you cut the bullshit and you get down to truth, even if people were like believing in the idealistic thing, when you get down to truth, they almost can't deny that those truths exist. And you ever been around somebody who's just in denial?
I'm sure I have. I'm trying to think of a specific time, but I'm sure.
Or publicly, have you ever seen anybody in denial?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they don't come back from that. Like there's nothing to talk about with them because they are in that. There's no way you bring them back from that.
Oh, yeah. You could give all the information, all the factual information you want. You could talk about it till you're blue in the face. But if they do not want to hear it or believe it, they're not going to.
Right. So Donald Trump gets elected. And so like the emotion from the election comes down. And let's just say 100% of the public just is like, okay, well, I didn't vote for him, but let's see what he does. Or I did vote for him and let's see what he does. That would probably be the setup to a really good presidency because you're just looking at the details. But then there are people who are like, I didn't vote for him, so anything he does is shit. And there's other people on the other side like, I voted for him, so anything he does is golden.
Yeah.
So we get the bullshit sandwich that's going to come out of this. 50% of us are going to be like, just show me, right? Give me details.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm going to remain positive. I hope it's good. Let's see what changes come out of it. Let's collect some data. But yeah, I think it's with anything, whether it's politics or anything. If somebody didn't get their way, it's automatically going to be justifying or finding fault in anything that's done. Oh, well, look, he just, I don't know, gave millions of dollars to the homeless. Oh, really? That's just like him. I bet he took it back. I bet it wasn't really that money. I bet he didn't really do it. His people did it. I bet it's something, something, something to justify or make it so that it wasn't a good thing. And then, look at this terrible thing he did. Well, you know why he did that? Because they did this. And why don't you ask about why they didn't do this? And
you're just exhausted by about 4 words in. 100%.
Yeah, and I've talked to people where I'll have to just say, we're not going to get anywhere if you're not even open-minded enough to consider or to look at things in a different light. Your stance is your stance. You're not going to, that's why they tell you, don't argue with people on Facebook. You're not going to change their mind. I can think of one time ever, someone came to me and they private messaged me and said, you know what? I really didn't see it that way. I didn't think about it that way. Thank you for shedding some light on that. I'm going to try to word things differently or whatever. And I was like, oh, that was very big of you. Great. I'm glad you were enlightened. That is so rare. That is so rare. Most people, you're not going to change anyone's mind because they don't want to see it another way. They will fight tooth and nail to make it what they want it to be.